Hey there everyone, AJ back again for the Mighty Gluestick channel. I make videos about Dungeons & Dragons lore full time thanks to your generous support, shares and views, with multiple uploads every week to help share the rich history of monsters, locations and mythologies of D&D. It's time we went exploring again on the Gluestick channel thanks to a very recent viewer request. Today we're taking a trip to the orderly plane, the paradise of Arcadia. That feeling that you get after working hard for many hours, digging and turning over soil, putting together borders and taking out weeds, laying down the structures and measuring just enough room between the seedlings, planting, watering and standing and contemplating the good and orderly arrangement of a well-made garden. The admiration of the natural beauty and law and order which serves to promote peace, harmony and bounty. Arcadia is an infinite plane. The landscape rolls on for mile after mile in every direction so that any who dwell here have no need to squabble over resources. There is enough space for everyone and enough space to be just right, carefully and thoughtfully measured to be just enough to promote the best result. Bordering the plane of Nirvana, also more commonly known as the clockwork Nirvana of Mechanus, or just Mechanus, and the plane of Arcadia is a lore tempered with goodness. It also borders the seven mountain heavens of Celestia, where goodness and law are strongly bound. So in many ways, this has always been an infinite border between the two, where the balance between law for its own sake and the law for the sake of goodness is in constant ebb and flow. It is this ebb and flow that makes Arcadia one of the most fun places to get the planar visitors embroiled in some delicious conflicts, but more on that later. In classic mythology, Arcadia is taken from Peloponnesian Greece and the writings of Virgil, where it is a place of pastoral happiness and simplicity. For the most part, the first layer is exactly that. There were once three layers to this plane. The first is what most people know of as it's called Abellio, a land of cities, orchards, roads, gardens and woodlands all arrayed out in regular geometric shapes. Everything very orderly and with incredible trees with bark of iron, copper, silver or gold depending on the tree species, all of them constantly producing flowers and fruit at the same time, growing directly like straight up and down. There's no wind blowing chaos to the way that they grow. Each fruit from each different tree having an effect like a magical potion, the various trees growing different types. It is an endless stretch of orderly plains dotted with a few mountains and hills. It's got normal gravity and time, but the period of day and night is exactly the same all the time, because all light is provided by a huge rotating sphere, which is half radiant and half dark, set into the highest mountain on the plane. The place is divinely morphic, so that any divine entities, even demigods, can just make a gesture and alter the plane, but any mortal creatures or petitioners just exist as if everything is non-morphic and regular. The divine realms of Clagadon, Silverbeard and Marduk are located in Abellio. Clagadon's perfect mountain rises 30,000 feet above the surrounding landscape. Compare that to the height of Mount Fuji in Japan, which is a little under 12,400 feet tall and quite visible for many miles. The similar perfect volcanic cone of Clagadon's mountain is visible for thousands of miles, and it seems like everyone who arrives in Arcadia will always be in sight of the mountain. However, I'm unclear if this is the mountain that the rotating sphere of day and night is located on, or if there's some other higher peak also located on the plane. It seems logical to me that such an incredible artifact is a divine feat of engineering, which would be the masterwork of a dwarven god. But Clagadon is not a god of the forge alone. He is the dwarven god of honor and martial skills in warfare, known as the father of battle and the lord of the twin axes. His holy symbol is two crossed battle axes, and his clerics are known as Allegor, every one of them experts in the forging of armor and weapons, and as well as how to use them, and the masters of battle tactics, military training, plus, well, what we would say is the dwarves' unhealthy love of cutting their enemies to bloody pieces. The Allegor wear bright silver war helms and brilliantly polished chainmail. They are known to sacrifice weapons to Clagadon's honor, which are received, at least in spirit, within the great halls. Inside that enormous mountain, which all are welcome to visit, can be found thousands and thousands of the dwarfiest of dwarfs, working tirelessly and joyfully to craft wondrous weapons and armor, stupendous weapons and armor of incredible value and worth. The halls and passages, every inch of the inside of the mountain is testament to the dwarven adoration of stone carving. It is mind-boggling how many hours of work must have gone into it, and it's one of the wonders of the multiverse. Travelers and merchants from many realms, different planes and spheres come to Arcadia specifically to purchase weapons and armor of unparalleled quality from Clagadon's mountain. As we explore this plane further, it will become clearer why such a seemingly peaceful and orderly realm is also home to one of the most formidable armories in the multiverse. The mountain is certainly not the only location of wonders and of trade. There are endlessly abundant forests, pristine and well-stocked lakes, perfectly orderly rivers that wend not in curves but right-angled turns, zigzagging across the landscape, and many open fields where every blade of grass is exactly the same length. In the harmonious ecosystem, even wild beasts contribute to the common good. Those surplus to the perfectly matched balance of food, territory, and available mates will simply surrender themselves over to predators, including intelligent beings who have a use for their fur and meat and so on. Visitors from the prime material plane are usually quite perplexed by this habit of animals to just wander up to them and peacefully lay down and die right beside the campfire. So to the natives of the plane, hunting and trapping seem like totally barbaric and evil wastes of time and effort. In my last video, I covered the Formian species, the lawful, neutral ant centaur people who build complex and amazingly well-organized hive cities, and on Arcadia they are much less aggressive to other species, as there is such an abundance of resources and few other beings pose much of a serious threat to their hive or their queen. One of the most largest and most open to outsiders is the hive city called Mandible, which is mostly located underground but has a large purpose-built city district for commerce, industry and entertainment. The main trade post is the district of Mechanus, which welcomes travellers and traders from any of hundreds of markets, inns, taverns and shops where prices are of course fair and strictly above board. While Mandible is a highly militarised centre of Formian power, ruled by the Queen Mother Kilixthra, visitors from other planes are given a lot of leeway when it comes to the strict application of local laws, but be advised, if there is a sign posted that has a number of rules and regulations in plain sight, it really pays to take the time to read it and understand it, because tolerance for law breaking anywhere on Arcadia is a very limited commodity. If you get a chance, purchase the Arcadian Watchdog from one of the markets, as they're naturally immune to illusions, and as are all of the local inhabitants of the plane. Similarly, local inhabitants of Arcadia can tell if you're good or lawful just by looking at you, so don't bother trying to pretend your player character's anything other than a murder hobo if that's the way they're inclined. Also, spellcasting is purposefully difficult on Arcadia. It takes twice as long to cast any spell on this plane. Marduk, the divine realm of the Untheric deity Marduk, is a dry and arid land. It still has a stark and artistic beauty to it, in that deserts have an orderly and neutral aspect to them already. The few trees and streams that dot the landscape take the form of perfect oases, densely inhabited by a peaceful and mostly complacent population. While he was alive, Marduk was an aspect of the dragon god Bahamut, worshipped in Unther as the greater god of cities, wind, thunder, storms and rain. He looked like a red-skinned humanoid with 4 eyes and 4 ears who breathed flame when he talked. Like most of the gods of ancient Unther, he died, but as he often left his lawful realm in the hands of mortals to look after when he was away anyway, the realm has continued to this day, though without his influence the marble and adobe oasis cities have become a bit more relaxed, not so harsh in the penalties handed out to those who break minor laws. The place is hot and dry, but a pair of rivers called Lua and Kath flow through the area, keeping the place pleasantly cool. Unther is, of course, one of the regions in the continent of Faerun. We'll be learning a lot more about this region on the channel in future, I promise. Arcadia is, of course, an upper cosmic plane where many transdimensional gods have a presence, so there are gods from other D&D settings located here as well, which can make realms such as this a perfect setting crossover point. For instance, if you wanted to have the players take on a journey to Kryn, the world of Dragonlance setting, they could visit the Anvil of Creation, realm of Reox, also known as the Forge, the Worldsmith, the Tamer of Chaos, kind of the Dragonlance version of Moradin in many ways. There's also the Bastion of Law, the realm of Greyhawk's St. Cuthbert, or Cherry Blossom, the realm of Izanagi and Izanami, the brother and sister who had a principal role in creating the islands of Japan, and from whom many important and elemental kami had their birth. Also, one of the 3 stellar gods of Chinese mythology, Liu Xing, has his Ministry of Rewards here, which is directly accessible from the celestial court of Karatur, which is, of course, part of the many mythologies and pantheons of the world of Toril. There is a lot going on, and the plane itself is harmonious, but the beings that dwell there are frequently in conflict with each other, because this is the thing. One person's law is not always the same as another person's law, and otherwise neutral or good powers can get into conflicts with each other, including full-blown wars. Don't get me wrong, it's also known as the peaceable kingdoms of Arcadia for very good reason. Travellers across the layer of Abellio can travel safely to the outlands, Mechanus or Celestia, through planet gateways that look a lot like really amazingly constructed white ivory or black steel portals shaped like flower trellises that are sort of verdant and abundant. You can be sure that these portals are very well signposted, and if you get lost, you can just ask a Formian for directions, or a honeybee if you happen to speak honeybee dancing language, that is. Travel from Abellio to the other planes of Arcadia is quite different. It's not only is it not signposted at all, travelling deeper into the layer and exactly how to get there from the other layers is a fairly well-kept secret of the locals, and the factions of the outer planes also work to keep it that way. The Harmonium has patrols that actually detain and prevent outer planar travellers from venturing too far from the main trade centres, and you can tell you're getting close to one of the places where you cross over to another layer, as the Harmonium faction will have a watchtower near a pair of huge rune-carved plinths standing 40 to 50 feet tall. As a divine afterlife, when the souls of those who are destined to come here arrive, they arrive as petitioners, and the petitioners of Arcadia are called the Einherjar. The Einherjar appear much as they did in their previous lives, though they are markedly more healthy and robust, and they all fanatically devoted to making sure the common good is maintained. Using their abilities to discern the alignment of anyone they meet, Einherjar make it their business to police the plane. If they catch any non-lawful or non-good creature, they have three possible courses of action. Chaotic good or chaotic neutral visitors are tolerated so long as they obey the laws of Arcadia. Those who are truly neutral are asked to finish their business and leave as soon as possible. Those who are tainted by evil in any aspect are immediately and remorselessly attacked. However, they do respect the trade centres and the individual preferences of gods who reside on the plane. But if you approach these massive stone plinths, you're going to have to deal with the Einherjar militia. Sure, 100% certainty. But it's not impossible to pass by and through to the next layer. And hey, as the DM, you giveth and the DM taketh away. If you need your players to get to the next layer, just arrange for them to have a permit or have some mysterious celestial show up and wave them through. You don't even need to explain why. Also, there is probably no reason to explain that the seasons on Arcadia are exactly ordered. 4 seasons are exactly 3 months each. Each month is 27 days, and change from one to the other is immediate. One moment spring, the next moment summer. Same with night and day. There's no dawn or dusk, it's just day and night, like the flick of a switch. Well, okay, that will probably come up in the game because it's pretty funny to illustrate what this feels like by turning the light off in the room and speaking quietly about a peaceful night sleeping around the crackling fire embers, and then turn the light on and loudly proclaim it's time to get up and get moving. This also means that birds don't gradually settle down into trees and sing the dawn and dusk chorus. They just land, settle down, lights out, then a few hours later, sun's on, and they take off again. It's the same across the entire plane. Borxenus is the second layer. It houses what was once the divine realms of Azuth and Savras, as well as Heliopolis, the shared divine realm of Horus Ray, Isis, Osiris, and Ra of the Malharandi pantheon. Azuth has quite an interesting divine career, and I would love to know what happened to his realm here when he was sharing a body with Asmodeus, but this is an investigation for another time. As of 5th edition, he's back in his former status pretty much, having returned to the Faerunian pantheon. Azuth's realm is a cavern whose entrance is hidden in the side of a hill, opening into a descending stairway that leads down to a series of massive chambers filled with stupendous magical marvels. I could talk about them for hours. I like to imagine at the end of the Diablo 2 game, and you're travelling through that extra-dimensional sort of wizard realm with stairways and rooms suspended in starry universes, kind of stuff like that. Although similar to the first layer, Borxenus is a very different vibe to it, and travellers will quickly encounter highly organised war camps, training sites and mustering grounds for armies bent on reconquering Nemosus, the lost third layer of Arcadia. The plot thickens. The Harmonium basically has its home base located on this layer. The town of Melodia is their base of operations now that the factions have been expelled from the city of Sigil. Here they run their infamous training camps. The goal of these places is to forcibly convert creatures of chaotic tendencies into this faction's ideology, or really, their cult, of the harmonious nature of the plane and the greater multiverse itself. By doing so forcefully, the Harmonium's success rate is very low, understandably, to the point that many of the captured creatures suffer terribly and eventually die. This persistent harmful effect of the training camps slowly permeates into the plane itself and is gradually altering the basic alignment further from lawful good and into neutrality, the exact same process that caused the third layer of Arcadia to become part of Mechanus in the first place. As far as the Harmonium are concerned, they can do no wrong. Their actions, as far as they can see, are in the pursuit of the greater good and the grand balance and advancing the cause of law. But in reality, the Harmonium's efforts are helping to destroy the second layer of the plane instead of recovering the already lost third layer. Try pointing this out to them though, and you are likely to be the next guest of a training camp, basically a boot camp that doesn't end, with a quite imaginative array of Shaolin monk-style training zones, each designed to break a being down and rebuild them into a lean, mean, and somewhat deranged law-enforcing machine. I swear, Asmodeus himself must have had a hand in designing some of these training exercises. They are truly grueling and psychologically terrible. But aside from the massive mustering grounds, stockpiled war machines and various command centres, there are lush and orderly gardens, peaceful R&R centres, sports arenas, and the grand city of Heliopolis, the marvellous shared realm of Horus, Re, Isis, Osiris, and Ra, a large triangular realm divided into thirds, each controlled by Isis, Osiris, and Ra. Horus wanders around between the realms, not interested in controlling any territory of his own, and there are many large numbers of Mulan people from the ancient times in Toril who call this place their paradise. Because it is. When the ancient Imaskari Empire captured the Mulan people from planet Earth and brought them to Toril, their gods eventually found their way to follow them there. So Heliopolis is like a slice of ancient Egypt, with a healthy dose of the incredible magical architecture of lost Imaskar, with massive pyramids, monolithic stone structures, perfectly orderly processions and city squares, fabulous gardens, libraries, works of art, and each of the three gods' territories having a particular feel. And of course, the Imaskari were famous for their towering, like impossibly tall towers, kind of like the city of Shan on Eberron. Influenced by the gods' interests and domains, the city districts are comprised of Tekeli Re, which is ruled by Horus Re, Gizhektet by Isis, and Memphria which is governed by Osiris. And ever since the time of troubles on Toril, the city has been accepting more and more citizens from the land of Unther, as the Church of Horus Re has been expanding into that land ever since, resulting in more of the petitioners arriving in Arcadia, because this is now their afterlife and they're travelling there as a result. Finally, the lost third layer. Being absorbed into the clockwork nirvana has radically altered the layer and is now conforms to the absolute lawful nature of Mechanus. Nemesis has had rich forests and verdant fields, all perfectly organised and aligned. No cities existed on the realm. It was home of the most concentrated population of Formians in the known universe, the multiverse actually. Now, Modron fortresses and abandoned training camps can be found scattered on an otherwise pristine landscape, with the underground basically completely transformed into the rigid order of Formian civilization. The realm can be reached by the massive rune-inscribed stone plinth gates from Borxenus, but access through these gates is extremely restricted by the Harmonium. Officially, the faction doesn't want to worsen the situation of the former layer's separation from Arcadia. Moreover, Nemesis was the site of the faction's most bitter defeat, which is sufficient reason for the Harmonium to want to keep it as secret as possible. It's their dirty shame, really. They really are willfully blind as to how their past and present actions have worsened and are now perpetuating the collapse of Arcadia itself. Before its separation, Nemesis was the most beautiful of the three layers of Arcadia, or so legend tells us. Not many living beings remain who ever saw it in its original state, as Nemesis has now become separated from Arcadia for millennia. The expansion of the Formians under the surface and the Harmonium using the layer as a base camp, or their original base camp and their training camps, this was the location that they imprisoned a whole lot of chaotic creatures, causing it to kind of drift further through the ideological astral mists and get caught up in the inexorable gears of Mechanus. I can't even imagine what the residents of the plane experienced during that time, as the perfectly orderly and heart-stoppingly beautiful landscape was torn apart and started to rotate through a new cosmic space, now part of the internal engine of order itself. The landscape breaking up into these perfectly orderly clockwork cogwheels. When the layer separated, the imprisoned chaotic creatures broke free, also mingling their natures into the plane. For that reason, Nemastus retained a level of disorganization and recklessness unlike the rest of Mechanus. From the Modron's point of view, it is the Wild West, as well, it's close to the lawless frontier on that plane that you can get. And ever since it arrived, the realm has been in constant turmoil, invaded by troops controlled by the Harmonium and attempts to reclaim it for Arcadia. However, these attempts are often contaminated with the selfishness and evil, which means that there's very little chance of any kind of success. It has to be done with the purest of good purposes. Really, the layer has become part of Mechanus, and it's actually difficult to distinguish it from the rest of the plane now. Tragically, there were still some petitioners from Arcadia in Nemastus when it became part of Mechanus, and the only refuge was to delve deep into the lowest levels of the Formian hives, particularly the dead hives destroyed by the crossfire between the two planes. They hate the Modrons and the Formians, and have a unique civilization of their own, fiercely independent and clinging to the memory of goodness. Deep down below the ground, they reach to the very cogs of the plane itself. One can only imagine sitting at a restaurant, eating a meal of fungus, cress, and sparkling moss, all portions exactly measured out automatically by the physics of Mechanus, gazing out of large windows cut into the metal wall of the titanic cogwheels, overlooking an endless vista of constant harmonious motion, gleaming like galaxies over an ever-changing constellation of reflective machine parts, as the members of the community read from ancient books that tell tales of love, hope, happiness, and generosity that they struggle to fully understand, but never stop trying. Turning the pages at a regular pace, the same time each day, with cybernetic limbs long ago installed to replace their failing organic forms. Just a reminder, if you've not subscribed or have been subscribed for a long time and not watched a video from me in a while, it may help to unsub and subscribe again. Make sure you click the notification bell and you should see regular uploads from me each week. Those who wish to explore the links in the description below under the video, you'll see links to my Patreon, those heroes who support the channel. Anyone who donates at least $1 per month will get access to all of the scripts that I write for these videos, as well as having special access to me. If you need to ask me any questions, I can research stuff for you. It's what I do. I will research things for my patrons and answer any questions, and I'll occasionally make videos exclusively for them as well. There's already one video that only the patrons can see if you're interested in that. There will be more of those each month, and I'm very, very grateful for the support of all of my patrons who help me to bring this stuff to you. I also have exclusive chat room access on my Discord server for the patrons if you wanted to chat in private. But anyone can join the server, link down below, as well as links to merchandise for my channel and Patron Blades, who I highly recommend if you want a mighty smooth shave. As always, thanks for listening. I'll be back with more for you very soon.